It's time to create our property in Revit. So we're going to go into Google Maps. You're going to find your property in Google Maps. This is my property, the one that I've been using as an example on Aspen Ridge and Baseline. But I need to be able to see the layers. So I'm going to go to this button in the bottom left corner. And there we go. Now if I zoom in just enough, you can see it shows me the property boundary. It's really important that you have that in there. So at this point, I'm going to right click and I'm going to measure distance. And I'm just going to click a distance. I want this to be a distance of about 100 feet. That is pretty darn close to 100 feet. That's close enough for what I need to do. So let me make sure that, again, I get the boundaries of my property in here. I have a 100-foot measure, and we're going to use this to create a scale for our actual property in Revit. So once I have this, then I'm going to right-click. Again, you need to have your boundaries in that 100-foot thing there, and click Print. So it's going to export this. So if I click print, then I can go to save as a PDF and just double check. I still see my scale in there. You notice that down here is a scale. This is not correct. This does not work. You have to have the right click measures. So I have 100 foot, got my property. I'm going to click save. And you're going to save this to your Google Drive. So navigate to your Google Drive on here and save that into your commercial project. And once you have that saved, then we're going to go into Revit. So let's move over to Revit. Oh, look at that, it's loaded. How convenient. So I want to click on New, and I need to browse. So you're going to have to go to the English Imperial Library and make sure that you get into the templates folder of the English Imperial Library. And you want to click on Commercial Default. So there we go. I'm going to click that, hit Open, and hit OK. So now I have a commercial template. So now that we have our project loaded, we are going to go into the site plan view, and I'm going to click on Insert, click Import PDF, and then you have to navigate to wherever you saved it. There's mine, and I only want this first one. You can see there's 3 here. These others are blank. So I'm going to click on that one. You can change the resolution. I made mine 150. Then hit OK. Well, it doesn't show up. Don't click anything yet because there's this little center circle right here in the top left corner. So I'm going to click the mouse wheel and press it down. You can see I get 4 crosshairs. And I'm going to drag that little blue image down to the middle of the page. There we go. Now I'm going to start zooming, scrolling in to the mouse wheel. I can chase it around. You can see that that is the actual image, is those 4 little dots that make an X. So that's your goal, to scroll in on this thing. So again, you held the mouse wheel down and dragged it to get this in the center of the screen, and then scroll the mouse wheel up to plot your image. So there we go. Now I have my image. At this point, we need to scale this image. So now I have my map in there. Now I'm going to go to the Architecture tab, and I'm going to click on Model Line. And I want to create a line in here that is 100 feet long. So I'm just going to draw a line down here, and I'm going to type in 100. Boom, there's a 100-foot line. Then if I hit the Escape key, now I have a line in there. I'm still in the Model Line Draw, so I'm going to hit the Modify. And now I choose my little image here. I'm going to scroll wheel out to zoom out, and I need to make this image, this line, my little scaled line that's 100 feet, I need that to be the same length as this little model line that I drew. So you can't just stretch one side of this. You have to grab the corner, and you're going to need to do this, a few times to be able to get this line to be the exact same size as the other line. So do what you need to do to get those matched up. I'm going to do the same. Now I've gotten pretty close. I can use the arrow keys, up and down arrow keys, to kind of line these up. And wow, I'm getting really close to this. So those lines look pretty close to lined up. So now I have my image here scaled to the same scale as my file in Revit. That is really important. Otherwise, none of your walls and your property lines are going to match. So now that we have that, we're going to go into Masking and Site and choose Topo Solid. And we're going to draw a rectangle that's larger than our property and completely fits inside our property line. So I'm going to choose my rectangle here. I can see my property boundary right here. So I'm just going to make a little bit of extra Maybe we'll include some of that road if I want to mess around with that and add that later on. So there is my property. Once I have drawn that, I'm gonna click the check mark. But it's right now it's drawn over the top. I can't see anything. So I need to make this transparent. So if you hover over the property so it's blue and you right click, then you can override graphics by element and you can set this transparency. I'm gonna set it to about 60%. And that allows me to see through my property into this image down behind it. Now if I go to massing and site, which I'm already in, and I click on property line, and we're going to create this by sketching. And what I can do at this point is trace my PDF right here. So if I click and draw, I can actually trace this little property line. And if you want to do it using like the arc tool, you are welcome to use the arc tool. I'm just doing some straight lines here as best I can to make my property. And at this corner, then I might choose to do the arc. This is a 3-point. Then I got a nice arc right there. And then I can continue along. So you're going to need to create and enclose your property. Then I click the check. So now I have my property at this point. Now, at this point, we need to confirm the length and width values to make sure it matches what we did in Google Maps. So I can use the ruler tool right up here, which is still there as long as I'm in the modify property. If you selected something else and it disappeared, you can always just click back on the property line and the ruler shows up there. So if I know that this edge of my property is supposed to be 386 feet, according to what I measured when I was doing my property, and it shows up to be really close to that, maybe a couple feet off in either direction is fine. Then you've done a good job, all right? We just need it to be really as close as we can get it. It's not going to be exact because this line over here that we matched isn't exact. So as long as we're close, I think you're in good shape. Now we have our property, and you can see that we have a very, very, very slight setback. You can check your setback, and I see right there that is only about an 8 foot. So typically, according to the city of Lafayette, we need to set back further from that. So you would need to actually build further back than what the property line is. So it doesn't really matter if the property line is closer than required setback. Just make sure you use the required setback according to Lafayette. The last thing we have to do is center our property on this blue dot. So I'm going to scroll out a little bit here, and then if I click and drag the center mouse wheel, I can move the whole screen. What I want to do is move all of this property, everything, so it's over the top of the blue dot, and we have to do it in that order. We cannot move the blue dot onto here because all of our levels are set according to this very specific position of the blue dot. So I'm going to click and drag this, and I'm just going to move this to where pretty sure where I want my property to be. So if you look back at your design, what you wanted to do from when you were creating your site plan, if you're thinking, yeah, on my property, this is about where I want to put my building, that's where you want the blue dot. So it's important that you do that. So, you know, if I was going to put my building up on the top, I would put it here. If I'm going to put it down at the bottom, I'm going to put it there. So I'm going to do this right now. That looks good for mine. So let me zoom back into this. Now let's go into our elevation view. We're going to go check into the south elevation. And what you should see here is something like this. We have our topo solid that we created. It's a pretty thin topo solid. And then we also have these default levels that Revit has created for us. There's not too many, but it's enough for what we need for now. Bottom of footing, top of footing, level 1, roof. We're going to add a couple more levels. So we're going to click up here. This is in the architecture tab. We go over to level, and I like to line the left side up, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to click over there. It doesn't matter where exactly, and I'm just going to line the right side up, and it snaps. Very nice. Okay, now I'm going to click modify, and I'm going to rename a couple of these levels. So I want level 1 to actually be my new ground level. And yes, I want to rename all corresponding views. So now if I look over here on the far left side, make sure I'm looking at floor plan views, not ceiling plan. Actually, I'm going to close that for now. Don't want to click on those. So now I have a ground level. That's fantastic. Now let's go over here and we're going to change level 2, and that's going to now be level 1. So just click on that, and if I click out of it, yes. Now I want to click this elbow here. And I'm going to do this for a reason because it's going to sort of get in the way. So if I click the dot, I'm going to move it up just like this. So go ahead and try to copy that. Now I want this level to be 4 inches. Why 4 inches, Mr. Thomas? Well, it needs to be 4 inches because we're going to build our building on level 1, which is 4 inches above the ground. So it's going to look like it's floating 4 inches to start. But when we put our foundation walls on there, they actually pop up above the ground, 4 inches above the ground, which is going to be great. We're also going to have a 4-inch sidewalk, which is a typical depth of a sidewalk that goes around the building. So that will start from ground level and go up to level 1. So those are the reasons. Now we also have a roof level that's default on here. Typical commercial buildings are going to be somewhere between 10 to 13 feet in height. So I'm going to set this one at 12. But if I wanted a 12-foot roof, it's actually 12.4. So I'm going to make 12.4 and hit enter. You can adjust yours as you see fit. Well, I do need one other level, and that last level is a parapet. So this is a parapet wall. So if you're in a commercial building, sometimes on, large commercial or residential buildings, they'll still have these skyscrapers, they'll have this roof level, and you always have to have a parapet wall. Well, the same thing for commercial buildings. So I just did a Google for parapet, and you can see all sorts of, angry people talking about parapets and really happy people over here. But a parapet is just a wall that prevents people from just falling off the roof in a commercial building. It's also really, really helpful to hide all of the things like the air conditioner and furnaces and not furnaces necessarily, but air conditioner handling units and maybe some water tanks and storage tanks and things like that. It also can be used for like an outdoor area. So we are going to have a parapet wall. So I'm going to go back to Revit and we're going to create a parapet level. Well, typically a parapet wall is about 3 feet. So I have to click on the architecture tab and click on level. Let me zoom out again. Okay, I'm going to line it up over here because I like to line things up. And I'm going to go over here and that snaps. That makes me really happy. Yay! Then I'm going to click up on here. I'm going to click MD. MD means modify. If you're not using keyboard shortcuts, you better. See modify MD right up there? So MD is modify. That lets me just kind of modify. Then I'm going to change this to parapet. Hit enter. And yes, I want to rename the corresponding views. And I'm going to make this one exactly 3 feet higher. There we go. So now I have my parapet level, I have my roof, level 1 ground level, and then I have top of footing and bottom footing, which I can change later as I need to when I get into the footings. So let's do one other thing here. We're going to take a look at our TopoSolid. We are going to adjust the thickness of this at a later time, but I'm going to edit this at this time just so that I can change the material. Right now it's just by category, nothing, and that's dumb. So we're going to make this grass because grass looks very nice. And so it says it's not found. Your window might be closed down here, materials library. Make sure you open this. Then we got to, there we go. I got to get that little, there we go, grab it. And then I hover over the word grass and I click up and there it is. Now I can apply, hit OK, and OK. And okay. And okay, so we are good to go here. We have this now at it's actually only 1 foot thick piece of grass here. I'm going to go look at it in 3D and click off of this and then make sure that I see this in realistic. And look at that in all of its glory. It's fantastic. You'll notice that these levels, this parapet level and this roof level, holy smokes, these things are sticking way out there in comparison with these other levels. What is going on with that? Well, the reason is when I created those, it didn't quite know where to put it. So I can click on this and I can actually drag it down to sort of match with these other ones. So I'm going to do that, and I can do the same thing with this level, sort of match this with these other ones. They're not going to be exact, but it's going to be close. It doesn't matter all that much. We just want to make sure that when we're in our south view, we can see them. We can also see them in our west view. You can see, well, that one's scooted out. That's because it wasn't quite lined up. So you can adjust these if you need to, just kind of line them up, because in that 3D view, the lines in the 3D view go in the east, west direction and north south direction. So all I had to do was go into the west and go into the east and just make sure they're lined up. Now I get this nice square view right here. So that should be all that we need to do for this and should be ready to go for the next design. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to create these roads that might appear in your site so that you have a little bit more accurate site plan.